Oh, 16, that's just the job employment program.
Okay.
And that's a program kind of separate from everything else. I can speak primarily for my shift right now, which is 4 to midnight, and we see 50 to 65 individual youth per night, just on that one shift. In the daytime, there are some other youth that we don't see at the night, so I would say 60 to 80 a day individual.
And do you have financial needs as well as for food and the other things?
Right now, our food, from 4 to midnight, is the biggest food time. And we serve whatever we can find, because we get all our donations in from Vancouver Food Bank, whatever they have left. Primarily what we get are old 7-Eleven food. We try to make do with that. Lately, the Wall Center has been coming over after conferences and kind of giving us the leftovers. Yeah, so what we do is we just constantly, kind of the way Mom does in her kitchen, you know, what can we get together, how can we make this a meal? And we try to put out soup and bread, something at 4 o'clock, and that's continuously served until 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock we have a meal, whatever we can. Even our craft dinner meals go out really good. And then we serve more food, like we'll put out more snacks after supper until midnight, and then we have something in the back that the midnight crew can pull out. So we just kind of try desperately to keep all the food there. We don't have a budget for food. I think we spend money that we're not supposed to have through other funders on food. But primarily our food comes through food runners. Yeah. I think milk right now is our biggest dilemma, and we recently had to stop serving juice because we couldn't afford the sugar. And we were only serving Kool-Aid, but we just couldn't afford to keep up on the sugar to keep Kool-Aid out. So now we have, you know, tap water and coffee, because we're getting coffee donations. Sometimes sugar, sometimes not sugar, and milk is a big thing in our center right now. Unfortunately, we've even had to put up some signs that say, please don't drink any glasses of the milk. We have glasses of milk for the people who really, really need to have the dairy, you know, but otherwise we just try to keep it, you know, and the juices we do have are safe for the diabetics. But thankfully there's a good community in there, so when I have to explain this, they tend to understand. I think these kids are the most understanding ever. I mean, go home and tell your kid you can't have any Kool-Aid anymore because you can't afford the sugar. You know?
You find that the street people in the West End in general are much more caring and sharing than anyone would expect.
Yeah. And all you have to do is talk to them like they're human beings. You know, they're just people.
Yeah, and that's what we do.
But unfortunately, because of their upbringing, some of them are just so fragile. That's why, you know, if they're on the street, they turn to drugs simply to stay sane. That's how it happens. They just, yeah.
I always think it's sort of like a buffer or insulation between them and the hardships of life.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It doesn't matter how old you are, you know. You know, like we were just talking about Jeff, and like his life experiences would have driven most of the people in this room totally out of their minds. And I mean, he's now a full-time resident of Stanley Park, and he's quite happy, but he's still a functioning human being. I mean, if it hadn't been for him over this last week, we'd be who? My doctor yesterday morning, and he and a psychologist that I've known at the 3 Foot Bridges Clinic for almost 9 years, they were standing talking to each other as I was walking in. And the two of them are going to try and encourage all of the healthcare professionals in the 3 Bridges Clinic to become advocates for us. And they, regardless of how many people sign up, the two of them are going to do it. And essentially let City Hall know that not only are we helping people, but we're also helping them stay alive. You know, because of what we do, like bringing them to directions in the wintertime when they can't walk because their feet are going to freeze. Stuff like that just got totally ignored. And it just so happens that we may actually have stumbled onto a place to possibly store at least one freezer in a fridge. One of our volunteers knows the man who is the director of the clinic personally, so we're going to approach them. Because they do have the facilities. They've got a big kitchen area in it. A part of it is it's set aside for a program called Boys R Us, which is for males with HIV, hepatitis C, or full-blown AIDS. It's sort of a community support group for them. And hopefully, if they are willing to become advocates for us, and apparently they are, because they think what we're doing is really important, and that's possibly a light to shine on us. But we have to pursue it.
And the thing is, too, is the general population doesn't realize how much crime we prevent.
Oh, yeah. And again, that is one thing I am going to pursue. I was warned not to because it might become known that we were associated with the police. But the Vancouver police have got all kinds of charitable groups that they are linked up with. And when they find out that Mum is essentially shutting down and about to disappear, they're going to support us. Because they know if they don't, they're going to have all kinds of problems with street crime. It's inevitable. If you stop feeding
and home
people,
invasion and
if you stop feeding people, they're going to
things.
get desperate. It's that simple. And yeah, and the reason I'm so passionate about this is because the only alternative is for them to go down into the east side. It's like, okay, well, you want to eat, go march into hell. I was actually down in that neck of the woods yesterday, and I actually, as close as I got was at the foot of Grapple and Hastings. That's too close. It's literally just spilling out of there into the West End now because they're forcing it out. And and the alternative, the only daily source of food is going to Union Gospel Mission, and simply for personal reasons. A lot of them don't want to have to listen to a half-hour sermon before they get fed. And then the only other alternative is the Sisters of Atonement, which from where I live, I actually had to walk out to a welfare program a little further east than that, and it took me an hour and 5 minutes to walk there. And so you're going to walk that far to get maybe 800 calories. It's like, there's a trade there.
Over the years I was volunteering too. I met a lot of people who I know just were capable of standing in a line in front of other people. And the only reason they got food was because we were there to feed them, and they didn't have to be around other people. They could just catch us while we were driving around in a quiet spot and just come up and get us food and leave. And you never saw them in a lineup. You never saw them anywhere else. They lived in the park or whatever. And they either got food out of dumpsters, or they get some good food and some vitamins from us. They didn't need a lot of extra care. There's no way we could direct them to issues. But the mobile aspect of what we were doing was what was so magnificent about it. Fortunately, away from it the last couple of years, got stationary, and it lost a lot of its character as far as I'm concerned, what it was doing. But the mobile aspect of it, we were mobile angels. Exactly. People knew where to find us at some point of the evening.
Yeah, especially the group down there in Oakford.
Food, she'd throw us food down, right? Like she would, so that we didn't have to worry about that. She actually kept me off the street. She kept me from stealing. She kept me that way. And then whenever I did better and I had no money and I was going to spend hours in a food bank, and she'd come with me so she could get some food too, and see what they gave us. And she'd drag me all the way down to the locker and, no, you have to take this. Because she knew that we had to feed our family somehow. But just in providing us food and love and support and acceptance, that's kind of what pushed us off the street. Like we didn't need to be down there. You know what I mean? Like we made a choice that's, or I guess we could call it a choice, but the best choice for us was to be down there, right? But once you're down there, you have to survive every day, and that survival takes 24 hours a day. So you don't actually even have time to worry about what's my next, you stop making goals, you stop making life plans because I need to eat and sleep today, and that's the most important. So for me, and it's the same thing, with Mom providing that for us, hopefully, through the center, and if you can get the older ones to start getting fed, then that's what we're doing. We're freeing up their day for them so they actually can go walk to a welfare meeting instead of walk for an hour and a half to get a bowl of soup, So I just think it's so important that we continue this on. And it's just so important that this food keeps getting to those people, because just providing them food is the best thing they